Welcome to Eternal Light, where we bring you messages of hope, faith, and encouragement for every soul searching for peace in a restless world. We are truly grateful that you've chosen to spend this moment with us, and we want to start by wishing you peace and comfort wherever you are right now. In today's video, titled When You Feel Lonely, remember this promise. We dive deep into the struggles of loneliness, a feeling that touches everyone at some point, but is often misunderstood and endured in silence. If you've ever felt isolated, unheard, or overwhelmed by the emptiness inside, this video is for you. It's not just a reminder, but a gentle whisper from the heart of the Creator himself, assuring you that you are never truly alone. We will explore the powerful promise that can change your perspective, uplift your spirit, and offer you a refuge even in the darkest moments. We encourage you to stay with us until the very end, because what we share may just be the light you've been seeking. If this message speaks to you, please show your support by liking the video, sharing it with friends or loved ones who might need this encouragement, and leaving your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. Your interaction not only helps our community grow, but also spreads this vital message further. And don't forget to subscribe to Eternal Light and click the notification bell so you never miss out on our uplifting content designed to inspire and heal. Remember, loneliness is not the end of your story. It's an invitation to encounter a promise that has stood through centuries, bringing hope to countless hearts. So sit back, open your heart, and let the Eternal Light guide you through this journey of faith and restoration. Thank you for being here. Let's begin. Chapter 1, Touching the Heart of the Lonely. There are nights when your small room feels unbearably vast, not because its dimensions have suddenly expanded, but because the silence seems to multiply, echoing louder in its stillness. The walls stand there, mute, as if they've given up their duty of reflecting back your voice. A dim yellow light stretches across the desk corner, casting its glow on familiar objects that now seem strangely foreign: a cold cup of coffee, a book left half open from the night before, and a phone lying motionless, untouched. No notification chime, no one asking where you are, no one calling to hear how tired you felt today. That silence is not simply the absence of sound, it is an emptiness that reverberates from deep within, slipping through the cracks of your heart, as if your soul were knocking on a door that no one stands behind anymore. This scene is far from unfamiliar in our modern age. Paradoxically, in an era that is considered more connected than ever before, it is also one where people feel the most disconnected. You might be sitting in the middle of a crowded coffee shop, yet feel like an abandoned, empty chair. You might scroll through social media for hours, absorbing status updates, images, and the curated lives of others, only to close your phone and be hit with a painful truth. No one really knows how you are living, how you are feeling, and in your most sorrowful moments, you might ask yourself, have I been abandoned? By family, by friends, even by God? That question is no passing whim. It is the familiar whisper of weary souls, the question rising from the lips of those who once prayed with unwavering faith, but now feel their voices vanish into nothingness. It is the silent sobbing that doesn't break into tears, even after kneeling down, reading scripture, doing everything right, yet still feeling as if God is absent. In psychology, this is often referred to as emotional abandonment. In theology, it may be called a test of faith. Whatever the term, the loneliness remains real. It touches every cell, distorting even the prayers you once knew by heart. But I want you to pause, place your hand over your heart, take a deep breath, and listen, not to the world outside, but to the quiet whisper pulsing within you. Because even in that dark and lonely night, a promise still glows, undimmed. A promise not hidden in missed texts or long-awaited calls, but tucked between the pages you haven't opened in a while. The Bible. That promise is not wrapped in poetry. It reaches you with the simplicity of raw truth. I will never leave you nor forsake you. It's not a slogan, nor a philosophical comfort meant to soothe a fragile spirit. It is a declaration, spoken by the one who cannot lie, who never changes, and who never breaks a promise. When the friends you trusted the most walk away, when your family no longer understands you as they once did, and even when you feel you've let yourself down, this promise stands as solid as a mountain. I know, You might say, but I can't feel him. Yes, there are seasons in life when God's presence doesn't come through feelings, but through patience. You don't feel him the way you feel a hot cup of coffee or the sun on your cheek. But just as the sun still shines, even when you're standing in the shade, God is still there, watching, holding, and sheltering you in his embrace. Loneliness does not negate the presence of God. It is only a veil through which your faith is shaped and matured. If you have ever had an intimate relationship with God, you'll understand. There are times when he is silent, not to abandon you, but to teach you to trust him even when you cannot hear him. God's silence is not his absence. It is an invitation to press deeper into trust, to a place where all emotions are stripped away, leaving only one profound connection: faith. And in that faith, the promise still burns like an unquenchable flame. You are not alone. You have never been abandoned. The room may be quiet, your phone may lie still, and your heart may feel barren, but you are being held by a love that does not change, a love that doesn't need Wi-Fi, isn't limited by time zones, and doesn't depend on the status of your relationships. A love from the one who said, "I have engraved your name on the palms of my hands." You are not a drifting speck in an indifferent universe. You are remembered, called by name, and deeply loved, not by just anyone, but by the Creator himself. And in that promise, you can sit down, close your eyes, and know you are not walking alone. Because while everything else may abandon you, there is one who has sworn, who has spoken, and who will never take back his word. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Hold on to that, especially on the nights when no one calls. Chapter 2. The Concept of Loneliness, a Common Phenomenon of Our Era. Loneliness is a reality without eyes, without ears, indifferent to class or social strata. It needs no visa to enter a palace, nor a ticket to visit a cramped room at the end of an alley. It seeps through like thin air in a room filled with people, yet without presence. Loneliness is a feeling deeper than mere physical absence. It is a rupture in the connection of the soul. It is when you stand in a room full of people laughing and talking, yet your heart feels empty, as if you were the only one unseen. It is when you hear others speak, but no one listens to the voice within you. You may have hundreds of social connections, friends, colleagues, followers on social media's off. When the stage lights dim, when you return to yourself, you realize no one truly understands you. That is the real definition of loneliness. In an age of global connection, where it takes only seconds to send a message across the hemisphere, the paradox is that we feel increasingly distant from one another. Social media is built as an illusion of connection, a mirror reflecting the phantoms of likes, hearts, and reactions. But it can never satisfy the soul's hunger to be truly understood. Those clicks may provide momentary stimulation, but cannot replace a truly deep gaze, a sincere word, or unconditional listening. It is precisely in this always online world that loneliness not only exists but thrives, spreading like a silent epidemic within the hearts of modern people. Selena Gomez, a celebrity with millions of Instagram followers, who has stood on stages bathed in dazzling lights, once confessed in an interview, "I have millions of followers, but when I turn off my phone, I don't know who to share with." This confession strikes at the very core of the issue. Not because she lacks fans or contacts, but because she lacks someone truly present, someone who can listen without judgment, love without conditions, and be there without needing to be reminded. That is the loneliness of a soul aware that its voice has become lost in a sea of people. And if you think loneliness only belongs to artists or sensitive souls in the vain world of entertainment, listen to the words of Prince Harry, a man who grew up in a palace, watched by the whole world. After the death of his mother, Princess Diana, Harry confessed that he felt incredibly lonely within the towering walls and the splendor of royalty. Even standing in grand ceremonies, surrounded by servants and attendants, his heart was lost like a stranger in his own homeland. This is an experience money and power cannot explain. It is the deep feeling of a child who lost his mother and doesn't know where to release the pain, in a place where people only expect him to appear according to protocol, not to ask how his heart is hurting. Two people, one a famous pop star, the other a prince of one of the oldest royal dynasties in the world. Two social positions seemingly on the peak of attention and admiration, yet they both walk through the same valley, the valley of loneliness, where lights, thrones, and fame are not enough to soothe the silent cries within. And they are not unique cases. They are just two among millions who carry an emptiness that cannot be filled by material things or success. Loneliness, in its deepest essence, is a sigh unheard. So is loneliness the inevitable fate of human existence? Must we only learn to accept it as a part of the soul's journey to maturity? The answer is not found in simple healing formulas or empty advice. The answer lies in a truth beyond all circumstances. You are not abandoned. Even if you do not feel it, even if no one else understands, there is one who watches every tear you swallow, who touches every wound you dare not name. He is not limited by time, not bound by form, and does not require you to perform better to love you. He is present, even when you are in the deepest pit of sorrow. In the Bible, Psalm 139 says, "If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there." This is the declaration of a soul that once fled, stumbled, and was misunderstood by the world, but found comfort in the unyielding presence of God. And you, whoever you are, carrying whatever unsaid sorrows inside, you are invited to step into this promise. Because His love does not choose between the famous or the unknown, the rich or the poor. He does not come because of what you hold in your hands, but because He knows what you need in your heart. Loneliness may be the reality you face, but it is not the end of the story you are living. Because in the seemingly empty picture of life, there is still a being standing behind the closed door of your heart, gently knocking, "My child, I am still here." And this is not just presence. It is a commitment, a silent companionship that never abandons, a sacred answer that no one except Him can give you. Chapter 3. The Promise That Never Leaves, the Assurance from God. There are promises spoken in moments of emotion that fade away like morning mist when life becomes difficult. There are commitments made at the table of happiness, only to be forgotten when trials knock on the door. But there are also promises that transcend the limits of language, that pass through time, steadfast as a rock amid the ever-changing currents of the world. These are the promises of God. In this unstable world, where faith is often betrayed and love easily replaced by selfishness, there remains one who has never and will never withdraw His spoken word. Do not be afraid. The Lord your God will go with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Deuteronomy 31:6. This is not merely a Bible verse. It is the red thread that connects the broken hearts of humanity to the unchanging eternity of heaven. This promise was given to the people of Israel at a time when they were about to embark on a challenging journey, leaving the familiar plains to enter the promised land where towering fortresses and strong nations awaited. They were fearful, confused, and unsure if they could make it. But God did not tell them to be strong on their own. He did not command them to try harder by themselves. Instead, He spoke a gentle yet firm word. "Do not be afraid. I will go with you." That statement was not just encouragement. It was the commitment of one who never fails. That no matter if you walk through the foreign land of worry or the barren desert of loneliness, He will walk with you. We live in a world where people's hearts change as easily as the direction of the wind. Someone who once promised to hold your hand forever may leave when you are weak. Someone who called you kindred spirit may turn away when you have nothing left to give. Sometimes you fall into the depths of disappointment because the one you believed would never abandon you, yourself, is the first to lose hope. But there is one who is above all human weakness, betrayal, and limitations. God is faithful. From beginning to end, He does not change. The words He speaks, He does not take back. The promises He makes, He engraves not only on stone, but within His loving heart for you. Imagine a child lost in the rain at night. The sky is pitch black, the path slippery, and fear closes in like a shadow. The child cries out, calling the name of a father it thinks has abandoned it. But on a street corner in the pouring rain, that father still stands, not moving a step away. His eyes never stop searching. His heart aches with every beat for the distance. No matter how far the child runs, how long it is lost, he does not leave. He does not shout angrily or turn his back to find shelter. He simply stands there, silently full of love, waiting for the child to realize it was never abandoned. That is the image of God. He does not force you to return, nor does he call your name with thunder. He is patient, quiet, and faithful, like a father waiting for his child, like a fire smoldering quietly in the dark night so your soul does not completely freeze. Even if you turn away from him out of doubt, pain, or fear, he is still there, unmovable, unchanged, unforgotten. In an age when people erase each other's names over misunderstandings and mistakes, God is the one who engraves your name on the palm of his hand, as the prophet Isaiah once wrote. You may not feel him in your pain. You may think silence is all that remains. But do not let temporary emotions deceive you from eternal truth. God does not operate according to human feelings. He does not love you more when you live well, nor less when you stumble. He loves you because he is love. And true love does not leave when the other is weak. True love stays until you are strong enough to rise, have enough faith to move forward, and enough hope to look toward the light. In the moments when you feel the whole world turns its back on you, remember this promise. No one can take God's presence away from you. No circumstance, no matter how painful or desperate, can push him out of your life. Because his faithfulness does not depend on your faith, it is his nature. You may lose everything, family, friends, health, even yourself, but you will never lose God. He is not just a refuge. He is the companion in every journey. So when you walk through darkness and see no way out, remember there is one who walked ahead of you. When you feel your heart is empty, believe there is one who has poured out love waiting for you to receive. When you think you have nothing worth keeping anyone by your side, remember there is one who never measures your worth by achievements or appearance, but by the very life he gave. God's promise is not a beautiful but meaningless greeting card. It is a covenant sealed by blood, the blood of his only son, shed not because he needed you, but because he loves you. So do not be afraid. Do not listen to the whisper of loneliness telling you that you are a burden, forgotten. Believe in this promise, a promise that does not change, does not fade, never fails. I will go with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Because you belong to a love that never takes back its word. Chapter 4. Those who were once lonely but were lifted up. Loneliness. Perhaps no other feeling is so silent yet so intense. It does not roar or shout like anger, nor is it as easily recognized as physical pain. Loneliness is a nameless void where one sits amid a crowd yet feels as if trapped alone in a locked room, where every sound is muffled and no one hears the breaking heart within. For the human soul, loneliness is a quiet weariness, a shapeless darkness that lurks behind forced smiles. Yet strangely, it is precisely in those moments, when it seems there is only yourself and the emptiness, that God's presence becomes clearer than ever. The Bible is not only a treasury of divine revelation, but also a mirror reflecting human psychology in the deepest moments of solitude. And in that mirror, we see the image of people who once fell into loneliness, but were gently and powerfully lifted up by God's hand. Look at the prophet Elijah, a man no stranger to miracles or courage. He was the one who confronted 450 prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, a fiery showdown between truth and falsehood, faith and superstition. He won, not by his own strength, but by God's power. Yet immediately after that victory, Elijah fell into the abyss of despair. He fled like a defeated man, collapsed under a broom tree, and uttered what seemed like a final plea. Lord, take my life. It was the sigh of a depleted soul, of a lonely heart no longer willing to go on. But God did not reproach him. He did not preach or emphasize failure. Instead, he sent an angel, not to preach, but to feed him, to let him rest, to restore him. That simple act, a meal, a gentle touch on the shoulder, is a profound expression of God's support. He knows that sometimes what a weary soul needs most is not words, but loving presence that never leaves. Then we encounter David, the shepherd who became king, the celebrated hero who was also betrayed, the man who once had everything and was later hunted like a criminal. Throughout his life, David repeatedly tasted loneliness as a shadow always following him. He did not hesitate to write about it. In Psalm 25:16, he pleads, "Turn to me and be gracious to me, for I am lonely and afflicted." Not a song of victory, but a desperate cry from a soul being worn down. Yet wonderfully, it was in those dark moments that David wrote the most beautiful praises to God, psalms that are not just literature, but recordings of a heart learning to trust amid the wilderness of emotions. Perhaps without loneliness, David could never have understood so deeply the silent but steadfast presence of God. It was because of loneliness that he learned to hear God's voice echoing through the cracks of his soul. And finally, the most heartbreaking yet sacred image, Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. The living Son of God, who shares power with the Father, chose to take on human flesh to walk alongside us, to taste everything we have tasted, including the deepest loneliness. In that garden, he carried such fear and pressure that his sweat fell like drops of blood. He prayed, begging his disciples to stay awake with him for 1 hour. But they slept. Those closest to him slept at the moment he needed them most. And then on the cross, bearing the sins of all humanity, he cried out words that shook heaven and earth. My God, why have you forsaken me?" It was not doubt, but total identification with loneliness, so that none of us, in any circumstance, can say, "God does not understand me." He understood because he lived, even died, in the very loneliness we once thought was ours alone. Yet even in that moment when he seemed most forsaken, redemption was accomplished. Through Jesus' loneliness, we are reconciled to God. Through the silence on the cross, the living word resounded for all ages. He was not abandoned. He voluntarily bore the distance so we would never have to live in it again. From now on, anyone can speak to God without fear, because there is one who went before us, who was lonely in our place, so we would never be lonely again. 3 men, Elijah, David, and Jesus, 3 different lonelinesses, but all lead to one truth. God does not avoid broken souls. He does not reject weak cries for help. On the contrary, it is precisely there that he comes closest, not with thunder and fire, but with whispers, with breath, with a small meal, a whispered poem, an invisible embrace at the final hour. Loneliness is not the absence of others, but an invitation to see the deep presence of God, who has always been there, just waiting for you to pause long enough to feel it. And if today you also find yourself beneath the broom tree of your life, weary like Elijah, remember, the angel is still being sent. If you are writing the diary of your sadness like David once did, do not forget that those pages can become songs for others. And if you feel so lonely as if the whole sky has forgotten you, remember, there was one who cried that question before you, and he is the eternal answer to all human loneliness. Chapter 5: Loneliness and Restoration Through Faith. Perhaps never before has humanity been so crowded, yet people so lonely. Bustling cities with millions of faces passing by each day, social media connections seemingly bridging every distance, yet they only highlight a deeper truth. We are increasingly living apart from one another, and sometimes even from ourselves. Loneliness is not merely the absence of others. It is the feeling of being misunderstood, unseen, and unwanted. In the modern era, where glory, success, beauty, and fame can be measured by likes and followers, there are still souls that sink into despair amidst the peak of their glory. And strangely yet sacredly, it is in that very darkness where the light of faith quietly but steadily penetrates, lifting hearts that once seemed broken beyond repair. Not only in the Bible, but even today in the world around us, we see vivid stories of restoration coming from God. True stories full of tears, but also full of hope. Selena Gomez, a name familiar to the public. She is known as a pop star, a beautiful actress, a youth icon. But behind the stage lights, behind the radiant smiles and glamorous outfits, was a girl who once drowned in the shadows of depression and addiction. For years, Selena struggled with feelings of inadequacy, with psychological wounds caused by career pressure, relationships, and illness. There were times she no longer recognized herself, as if her soul had been lost within her body, as if she were merely a painted doll meant to please the world. Yet, in that very depth, she rediscovered something sacred that had once dimmed in her life: faith. In a rare shared video, Selena said something that moved many to tears. "I understand that God never left me, even when I left myself." This was not just a personal confession, but a profound spiritual awakening. It revealed the steadfast presence of God, the one who is not shaken by human failure, but patiently waits, like the father in the parable of the prodigal son. Selena didn't just return to faith personally, she began to use that faith to heal. She joined Bible study groups, prayed with friends, and shared her journey as a testimony that fame cannot save anyone, but God can. Her restoration did not come as an instant, dramatic miracle, but as a day-by-day, step-by-step process, like someone walking through the night, knowing they are moving toward the light. Perhaps the most sacred thing was her courage to honestly reveal her pain to the world, so that others, those quietly collapsing in loneliness, would know they are not alone, that healing is real, and that faith is not something distant, but a lifeline amid the storms of the soul. Similarly, Justin Bieber, a symbol of success from a very young age, also stands as a vivid example of a journey from brokenness to renewal through faith. Once adored worldwide and placed on the pedestal of fame, Justin fell into chaotic years filled with emptiness and alienation. In an interview, he admitted, "I had everything: money, fame, public love, but I was still empty until I found a real relationship with God." This statement may sound paradoxical, but it reflects a universal truth. External things, no matter how dazzling, cannot fill the deep void inside the soul. That void, created for God to dwell in, cannot be filled by music, parties, or stage lights. Justin chose to return, not merely to a religion, but to a living relationship with God. He began praying, studying the Bible, attending church, and most importantly, living his faith openly and humbly. On social media, he freely shared Bible verses, reflections on forgiveness, love, and God's presence in life. One of the most touching things he said was, "Now I don't feel lonely anymore." This was not because he got married or had a loving family, but because he found a true refuge for his soul, a place that never changes, God's heart. Both Selena and Justin, two young people, two modern cultural icons, have hit the depths of loneliness and crisis, but also show that no abyss is so deep that faith cannot reach. Their restoration is not a mysterious miracle reserved for celebrities, but proof that God is still at work, still healing, still loving, in this real world, right now. Loneliness does not discriminate by class, age, or circumstance. But faith is the same, a universal gift for every heart longing for something beyond its emptiness. And if today you walk among the crowd but still feel lost, if you have ever thought no one understands you, no one hears your voice, remember there is one who always listens, whether you whisper in tears or sigh silently. God does not dwell in grandeur, but in broken hearts. Not amid applause, but in moments when you feel forgotten. As Selena admitted, sometimes we abandon ourselves, but God never does. And as Justin said, a true relationship with Him can turn emptiness into peace, loneliness into a home of hope. The world today still needs people brave enough to live honestly, brave enough to share pain, and brave enough to believe. Because in faith, there is always restoration. Not easy, but always there. Chapter 6. What to do when you feel lonely. There are moments in the inner life when loneliness is not just a feeling, but a heavy reality, like the morning fog that seeps into the mind, envelops the soul, and leaves you confused about where you stand amid the flow of life. You may be sitting in a room full of voices, or have hundreds of interactions on social media, yet still feel empty inside, like an empty house without anyone living in it. Loneliness does not always come from the absence of loved ones. Often, it arises from a lack of harmony, from the absence of a place where the soul can rest. But amid this haze, there are paths leading toward the light. These are not instant remedies, but profound spiritual practices, both simple and mysterious, that can bring your soul back to its original state of peace and connection with the Creator. Because ultimately, the deepest loneliness is not the absence of people, but the absence of the divine presence in the soul. The starting point might be the simplest thing, prayer. But not the kind of prayer that just presents or justifies, rather honest prayer, bare and unguarded, just as David did in his tearful Psalms. Speak to God as if you were speaking to a father who understands everything, but still wants you to pour out your heart. Speak like a child lost without a way home, like an old friend long unseen, like a soul that does not know how to name its sadness. You don't need beautiful words or eloquent expressions. You only need to be truthful. Truthfulness in prayer is the shortest path to the presence of God. For he is not drawn to formality, but to a broken and humble heart. There will be nights when the only prayer you can utter is, "Lord, I am not okay." And in that whisper, the sacred begins to touch the deepest layers of your soul. Then, as your heart begins to open, seek out the promises, not the promises of humans, but the promises of the Bible, which has recorded for thousands of years the calls of God's love for the lonely, the weak, and the brokenhearted. Psalm 34:18 holds a special power in dark days. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. Not close to the perfect, not close to the successful, but close to the brokenhearted. Let that word soak into you like rain into dry earth. Read it and let it live within you. Like light slip through a crack when you thought the night would last forever. The Bible is not a dry set of rules, but a love letter from the one who relentlessly seeks you. Within those pages, you will see that you are not alone, because countless others before you have walked through the desert of loneliness, and they met God there. But no matter how strong a person is, we are not made to live alone. Indeed, even Elijah, the mighty prophet who called down fire from heaven and confronted hundreds of false prophets, had moments of despair when he prayed for his life to be taken. And God, instead of reproaching him, sent Elisha as a companion. This teaches us that no one, no matter how strong in faith, can walk alone forever. If you feel lonely, seek out a community of faith. It does not have to be a large church. Sometimes just a small group, a prayer partner, or someone who listens with an open heart will suffice. In that fellowship, you not only find connection with others, but also rediscover the image of God in them, because he is still present in the community of believers, where 2 or 3 gather in prayer and share their burdens. You were not made to be lonely. You were created to love and be loved. And sometimes a hug, a shared prayer, a compassionate glance, these are enough to remind you that you have never been abandoned. Finally, when you feel somewhat comforted, step outside yourself and serve others. This is the mystery. When you give away what you think you have lost, you find it again. When you help others, even while you yourself are hurting, you open a door for light to enter the deepest part of you. Service does not have to be grand. Sometimes it's simply sending a message to someone who is sad, cooking a meal for someone in need, or volunteering for a small but meaningful task. In these actions, you not only soothe another's pain, but build a bridge between your heart and the world. Loneliness, when used as material for love, becomes something sacred. You will find yourself less focused on what is missing and begin to see what you have: the ability to connect, to love, and to bring God's light to others. So if you feel lonely, do not despair. Start with a sincere prayer, even if it is only a sigh. Let the Bible remind you that someone is near, very near. Find a community, however small, so you do not have to walk alone. And try opening your heart to the world by serving and loving, so you yourself can be healed. Loneliness is not the end. It is an invitation to enter a deeper relationship with the Creator, with others, and with your own soul. Because sometimes, lonely hearts are the easiest places for God's light to dwell. Not because they are empty, but because they yearn to be filled with something real, deep, and eternal. Final chapter: you are not alone. Finally, after all the layers of emotional fog, the silent stretches, and the long, restless nights, please pause here for a moment, in this quiet moment with me, to reflect on a truth you may have forgotten: that you are not alone. You may have felt like you were drifting among a sea of people without anyone noticing, as if your calls disappeared into the void. You may have had nights when even your own tears felt unfamiliar, not because you ran out of them, but because you no longer believed anyone would listen. But let me, and above all, let the promise of the Creator remind you that loneliness may come, but it is not your destiny. It is only a small part of the journey, not the final destination. It may be where you stand now, but it is not where you will stay forever, because God never abandons anyone. That seemingly familiar phrase is actually a sacred declaration, as solid as a rock amid the ocean of uncertainty. The Bible does not sugarcoat reality, nor hide the moments when people fall, cry, or feel empty. But within those pages flows a vibrant current of hope. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Not because you are strong does he stand by you, not because you are holy does he love you, but precisely in your weakness, doubt, and dryness, He is closer than ever. This is the most beautiful paradox of faith. You feel the most lost when you are most aware that He is holding your hand. And then, in the darkness of your inner world, there will come a time when you see, or at least sense, a flickering light somewhere. It is not as bright as the sun, nor does it banish all the shadows around you, but it is enough for you to know that you are not completely alone. It could be a Bible verse ringing in your memory, a friend's message just when you need it most, a video that appears as you scroll your feed, or a song that brings you to tears. That little light is a sign of an invisible yet real truth, that you are seen, known, and still loved by a being who never sleeps. Hold on to that light. Do not snuff it out with doubt or bitterness. Let it be the light that guides you through every long night. You do not walk alone. You have never walked alone. You may not feel that presence now, but that does not mean He is not there. There are things in spiritual life that cannot be measured by feelings, but can only be certain by faith. And faith, even fragile, can hold you steady as long as you don't let go of the promise. Because you are not just a name among 7 billion people. You are a unique soul, created by love, called by name, and written on the palm of God's hand. You are not forgotten, you are not rejected, and surely you are not alone. If this video, or rather this whisper, touches you even just a little, I believe it is no accident. Maybe you are searching for a sign. Maybe you have been pleading for a reminder. Then let this be what you need to hear. You still matter. You are still loved, and you can still start over, not alone, but with God. Before we part, I want to sincerely thank you for taking the time to listen, not just with your ears, but with your soul. These are not just words, but an invitation to continue the journey of seeking light in the darkness, finding connection amid separation, and discovering faith where hope seems lost. Keep walking with eternal light, where souls like yours and mine find refuge in the unchanging promises of God. If you feel uplifted by what we share, please don't hesitate to watch more videos on this channel. Each video is not just content, but a prayer, a little light in the vast world sent to you who needs a ray of hope. We will return. And you, please don't leave forever, because once the light is kindled in your soul, no matter how long the night lasts, you will never truly be alone. See you again in upcoming videos. Until then, hold fast to your faith, because you are known, you are loved, and you will never, ever be forsaken.